Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. Lord, the leader of Muyuan City is seeking to see you. Early in the morning, Wei Gang's voice sounded outside the territory. Lin You, who was having breakfast, stood up slowly, looking very surprised. If he remembered correctly, the new lord of Muyuan City just arrived last night, right? Why did you come to him so quickly? In doubt, he immediately put down what was in his hand and hurried out of the territory. After passing through the vine forest of green vines, I saw Wei Gang standing there with a brand new shield on his back, and several unfamiliar figures. Among them, the one who most attracted Lin Yu's attention was a young man with a slightly green face, accompanied by a team of undead troops mixed with 5th and 6th orders. It should be the new leader of Muyuan City, Jiangsu. And what he didn't expect was. After seeing him, the young man suddenly stepped forward in surprise. Are you, the boss of Lin You? Do you recognize me? Lin You asked in surprise. Of course I do. Jiangsu nodded his head pecking at the rice. In the secondary plane, Boss Lin squeezed Yin Tiange out of the first place, and has been occupying the top spot. How could I not recognize him? You, teleported from that area? Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, before finally reacting. This Jiangsu was actually teleported from that blocked area. This surprised him very much. He didn't expect that the blockade would be lifted so quickly, and the 6th Order Lord would come so soon, and he also came to Muyuan City near him. If it's possible to say that his name might collide, then Yin Tiange's name is definitely not wrong. The blockade in the area where he was before has really been lifted. Surprised, he immediately asked, how did you know that I am that Lin You? Are you not afraid that it is not the same person? This. Jiangsu touched his head embarrassedly. Actually, I heard reports from people in the city that there was a very powerful lord nearby named Lin You, so I wanted to come over to confirm, but I didn't expect that it's really you. What a coincidence. So it is. Lin Yu suddenly realized, since this is the case, then come to my city to sit first, and tell me about the situation in that area by the way. It is good. Jiangsu did not refuse, and went directly into Huangsha City with Lin Yu, and also began to tell Lin Yu about things in the area. To Lin Yu's surprise, Jiangsu seemed to know nothing about regional blockades, or even heard of it. After the 4 of them left, the list in the area was constantly changing, and a lot of things happened. During the period, a small number of lords reached the 6th level and directly teleported away. Lin You couldn't help sighing when he saw Jiangsu's vivid expression without knowing anything about it. Sometimes, not knowing is much happier than knowing. It is estimated that those lords who have reached the 6th rank before have encountered accidents, right? Fortunately, it's only a small part. Well now, the regional blockade has been lifted, and finally you don't have to worry about becoming someone else's food, you can send it with peace of mind. After thinking over and over again, Lin Yu still did not tell Jiangsu the truth. Instead, he continued to chat with him about things in the area. By the way, talking about the current situation of the primitive continent can be regarded as making him less detours. Until halfway through the morning, Jiangsu came to the outside of Huangsha City with Lin Yu's farewell. Boss Lin You, then I'll go back first. I just arrived here, and I still have a lot of things to do. I'll disturb you another day. Jiangsu stood outside the city gate and said to Lin You, his tone was much more respectful than when he first came. Because along the way he discovered. There are not only many masters in Lin Yu's territory, but even the occasional plant troops have reached the terrifying 7th order. This is absolutely unimaginable for a 6th Order Lord who has just arrived, and it is even more certain that he wants to hug his thighs. Follow the big guy, that's right. That's all. After saying goodbye to each other for a few more words, Jiangsu left with a few cultivators and troops around him. That thin appearance is really like when Lin Yu first came to the primitive continent, and it was the same. There were only a few tier 6 troops around him, so he couldn't help but let out a sigh. Lord, what's the matter with you? Wei Jing on the side looked over curiously. It's nothing, I just feel it. Lin Yu smiled slightly. By the way, how is the situation of the guard team? Are they all equipped with basic equipment made by dwarfs? It has been equipped, and the sixth order equipment is also distributed according to the requirements of the Lord. That's good, since there's nothing else to do, then you can go back to training. Yes. In response, Wei Gang also left with his men. Lin You glanced at the rows of buildings under construction outside the city, then turned and walked towards the territory. However, just after returning to the territory, the space in front of him suddenly shook violently, and a space channel appeared in front of him. Boy, I found the 3 people you were looking for you, come here quickly. The rough and bold voice of King Xingyao came from the space channel. Lin You was startled for a moment, then became excited. King Xingyao actually found Yanwu and the others so quickly? Who dares to hesitate, immediately walk into the space passage and disappear into the territory. And this time, outside the palace of King Xingyao, Yanwu, Yin Tianga, and Bai Haitang walked up the stairs with trepidation under the leadership of the golden armored knight. Just now, they received a summons from King Xingyao and were sent here. Even though it has been several minutes now, they still haven't fully reacted, and they are still extremely flustered. That is the Holy King. The existence of ruling the 10 principalities. When they thought that they were about to meet such a big man, they couldn't help but float up, worrying about whether they had committed a serious crime or done something they shouldn't have done. After all, there has been a lot of uproar about the spies in the Yuansha world recently, to the point where everyone knows it. If they were identified as spies, wouldn't they be smashed to ashes? You said, why did King Xingyao suddenly summon us? Yanwu asked in a low voice, his eyes filled with worry. He and Yin Tianga and Bai Haitang had just met each other, and before they had time to greet each other, they were brought here, and it was a lie to say that they were not worried. Even Yin Tianga was no longer as calm as he used to be, and said in a low voice, could it be that he was mistaken for a spy and wanted to kill us all? What do you think, Haitang? Saying that, she looked at Bai Haitang beside her. At this time, Bai Haitang is a little less green and more restrained than when she first left the area. However, her temper of rejecting people thousands of miles away still hasn't changed much. Just glanced at Yin Tianga, and then replied coldly, I don't know. Yin Tianga's breathing stagnated, and she was directly choked back by her answer. While they were talking, the gate of the palace gradually came into their eyes, making them tense again, and they all stood up straight. Soon, they went through the gate and entered the palace. At a glance, I saw a familiar figure standing there. They were puzzled for a moment, and then their eyes suddenly widened. Lin You! How will you be here? The 3 of Yanwu never thought that they would meet Lin You in such a place. The original nervousness was also forgotten, and he walked quickly to Lin You. It's really you. Seeing the 3 of them, Lin You was also extremely excited and hurried up to greet them. Fortunately, everyone was fine and alive, so the worries in his heart finally dissipated completely. Yeah, I didn't expect us to meet again. Yanwu said with emotion, by the way, Lin You, are you also called here? After speaking, he glanced around again, only the empty palace was left, and the legendary King Xingyao was not seen. Don't look at it, I asked King Xingyao to find you here. He just left first because of something. Lin You naturally knew what he was thinking and smiled. Yanwu and the others were shocked when they heard the words, and looked at Lin You in surprise. Did you ask King Xingyao to call us? Yin Tianga couldn't help asking. Who is King Xingyao? The terrifying existence of the 11th order. To help Lin You find someone, one can imagine how shocked they were. The delicate Bai Haitang also seemed to have guessed something, and suddenly said, could it be that the spies of the Yuansha realm were dug up because of you? As soon as these words came out, Yanwu Yin Tianga's expression changed again, and he looked at Lin You again. And it seems that this is the only way to explain why Lin You appeared here and got the help of King Xingyao. In the face of their inquiring eyes, Lin You did not hide it, and smiled, yes, I found it, you should have guessed it? The spy of the original evil world is the one who blocked our area. Really? Tiange suddenly realized. I had thought before that this spy of Yuansheji might be the one who blocked the area, but I didn't expect it to be true. Then how did you find him? Yan Wu asked again. Bai Haitang cast a curious look. This is a long story. It has to start from when we first started teleporting. Do you remember the big mouth you saw in the teleportation channel? Lin Yu's eyes were long, and he began to tell them how he discovered step by step and exposed the spies of the original evil world. It took more than 10 minutes to finally finish the whole process. And the three of Yan Wu had already fallen into deep shock, unable to extricate themselves. They did not expect that while they were still working hard to improve their territory, Lin You had gone to the frontier battlefield alone, and also participated in several large-scale battles with the original shaman world lord. He even finally revealed the secrets of the Yuansha realm, found the spies hidden in the primitive continent, and successfully rescued the blocked area. If they were doing this kind of thing, they would never be able to do it to such an extent. You know, it's only been 2 months. In 2 months, the gap between them was so wide that if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed it. And just at this moment, Tiange suddenly thought of something, and asked again, by the way, Lin You, the person who was ranked 4th in the kingdom before, shouldn't it be you? Yan Wu and Bai Haitang, who were still reminiscing about the whole process, were also stunned for a moment, and then reacted immediately. The 4th person in the kingdom rankings, isn't it Lin You? And it's botanical. The most important thing is that he, like Lin You, is also from the great wilderness country. This time, they were finally completely shocked. If one coincidence is an accident, what about 2 or 3? Not to mention Yan Wu and Tiange, even the cold-hearted Bai Haitang had trembling eyes and looked at Lin You in disbelief. No way, if we didn't have some strength, we wouldn't be standing here like this. Lin You helplessly shrugged, admitting this matter in disguise. It made the three of them even more silent, as if watching a monster. Stop talking about this, let's talk about you guys, how have you been recently? Lin You didn't give them much time to digest, and continued. Are we? Yan Wu and Tiange looked at each other. Tiange and I had better luck and were teleported to the Principality of Failwan together. Although it's a little far apart, we have someone to take care of and exchange information. Is it the Principality of Failwan? Lin You muttered to himself. If he remembers correctly, this duchy seems to be at the other end of the Fire Country, not too far from the Great Wild Country. Then, he looked at Bai Haitang on the side. Without waiting for him to ask, Bai Haitang said lightly, I'm in the Principality of Bingxian. The Principality of Bingxian? That seems to be the northernmost principality of the kingdom, most of which is covered with ice and snow, right? Yan Wu interjected. Well, it's far away, but the territory has basically developed, so don't worry about any danger. Bai Haitang nodded silently, her eyes a little complicated. When they parted in the area, she also said that she would repay Lin Yu's life-saving grace, but now Lin Yu has left them far behind, so far that they can hardly see. It is estimated that he has forgotten the joke at the beginning, right? Bai Haitang sighed inwardly and didn't mention it again. Yan Wu and the two also felt the slightest pressure from Lin Yu, and they both secretly decided in their hearts that after returning home this time, they must improve their strength as soon as possible, so as not to be pulled farther and farther by Lin Yu. That's all. The few of them chatted about their own situation in the palace for a long time, and made an appointment to have the opportunity to meet in the main city of the frontier battlefield. Only then did King Xingyao finally reappear and send them back to their respective territories. However, when he was about to leave, King Xingyao suddenly stopped Lin Yu. Boy, I have done all the things that I promised you. After you go back, improve your strength. There are still 2 months left. It is estimated that something big will happen in the main border city. Major event? Lin Yu was shocked. Yes, this time Yuansha realm has done too much. If you don't want to die, take advantage of this time to improve your strength as soon as possible. Saying that, without giving Lin Yu a chance to react, he directly waved his hand and sent Lin Yu into the space passage. When he came back to his senses again, he had already appeared on his own territory. However, he didn't care about these, but kept recalling the words of King Xingyao just now in his mind. In 2 months, something big will happen. That is, after the next Wanjie battlefield. If he guessed correctly, I am afraid that this time they will really attack Yuansha realm in a big way. When a full-scale war breaks out, no lord will be spared. But at the same time, it is also an opportunity for his rise. Looks like we need to work harder. While whispering, Lin You looked outside the territory, the Yellow Sand City, which had been expanded twice. With the current growth rate of his faith, he should be able to reach the 500 points required for the upgrade before the next 10,000 worlds battlefield, but that's not enough. His goal is not only the 7th order. If you want to survive in this dangerous world, you still have to work hard to improve your strength. And the territorial level is the biggest factor that restricts him from achieving this goal. Thinking of this, he didn't stay in the territory anymore. Instead, he went outside and found Shucheng, who was arranging staff outside the city, and began to work on the expansion plan of Huangsha City. Anyway, he still has a lot of magic energy in his hand. The big deal is to invite some more people to build it. As long as the progress can be accelerated, everything can be said. It happened that there was nothing to do these few days, so he simply stopped going to the main city for the time being, and stayed to develop the territory. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, 5 days passed. Just as Lin You was discussing block planning with Shucheng outside Huangsha City, a series of prompts suddenly sounded in his mind. Congratulations, the experience of the Blood Demon Girl has reached the full value and meets the requirements for upgrading to the 7th rank. Do you want to upgrade? Congratulations, twin mushrooms. More than 30 prompts interrupted Lin Yu's ongoing conversation. The remaining 30 or so proliferating arms finally reached the upgrade conditions after so many days of experience accumulation, and they shone brightly in the territory. Lin You was pleasantly surprised and immediately chose to upgrade all. Then he handed the matter over to Shucheng and hurried back to the territory. As predicted, the remaining proliferating arms have been upgraded, and they have all become Tier 7 arms. Even the only blood-drinking dandelion has been upgraded, and many terrifying red sarcomas have grown on the rhizomes. Name, Blood Goo Dandelion. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 650. Physique, 778. Agility, 650. Spirit, 844. Skills, Infinite Proliferation, Parasitism, Tracking, Bloodworm. After the dandelion seeds eat enough flesh and blood, they will bloom into new dandelions again, spread around, carry out a new round of reproduction, and are controlled by the body. Introduction, a very rare plant, its seeds have strong parasitic destructive ability, do not inhale it. The 7th order dandelion's parasitic ability has been greatly enhanced. Not only can it be parasitized once, but also can be parasitized with multiple geometric multiples. Then it continued to spread around like a plague, and it was terrifying to think about. And just when Lin You was checking the dandelion information, a prompt sounded in his mind. Congratulations, you have successfully ranked first in the kingdom list, 6th order, and won the glory of the territory, Peak Lord. An existing territorial glory has been detected, and replacement is in progress. Replacement succeeded. As the voice fell, shining jewels gradually appeared on the golden crown above Huangsha City, emitting dazzling multicolored rays of light all around, attracting countless people in the city to stop. Lin You took a look and saw that the crown effect actually increased from 50% to 100%, which doubled directly. The changes on the list also caused a sensation in the kingdom and the major duchies. Look! The kingdom list has changed, and that Lin You actually rushed to the first place. Fuck! What's the situation? I just saw that he was only 4th. The people in the principality actually won the first place in the kingdom? How did he do it? How can that be? Who is this Lin You? Could it be the illegitimate son of the great wilderness king? If it is said that Lin You won the 4th place in the kingdom before, it was only a small-scale shot. Then he really surprised everyone by reaching the top of the kingdom list this time. As the lord of a principality, it is absolutely unprecedented to reach the top of the kingdom list. Not to mention the melon-eating lords, even the sixth-order arrogant sons of the kingdom were all disturbed and rushed back from the main city. After all, letting people in a principality put them on their heads would be slapped in the face for them. Go. Be sure to find this Lin You for me. I want to know all his information. Contact the people in the great wilderness country immediately and ask them to help investigate this Lin You. You go too. A shout resounded in the various territories of the kingdom, completely breaking the peace around the kingdom. And Lin You once again became the focus of all the lords' attention. Great wilderness country capital. Jixing sat on the throne in the palace, watching the chat channel scrolling in front of him. The corners of his mouth gradually rose. It didn't take long for the palace door to open. Ji Yunshuang held the sword around his waist and walked in quickly from the outside. Father, I heard that Lin You is number 1 on the kingdom list. Before the person arrived, the voice had already entered the palace. Well, I just saw it too. This Lin You is really beyond my expectations. In Jixing's eyes, there is a strong sense of appreciation. Originally, he thought that Lin You would get the 4th place if he was in the sky, and it was basically impossible to go further. Unexpectedly, Lin You not only took a step further, but also took a big step directly and rushed to the top of the list. You know, he has only been here for 2 months. This is also the place that surprised Jixing the most. Because even he, when he first came, took nearly half a year to achieve this level. It is enough to see that Lin Yu's talent is high, and it is not impossible to become a 10th-order king in the future. It made him unable to bear the idea of recruiting Lin You as his son-in-law. In addition, the impression that Lin You left on him before is not bad. Maybe he is really a good candidate. Thinking of this, Jixing's eyes gradually narrowed, looking at Ji Yunshuang who had just walked in, and asked, Yunshuang, what do you think of this Lin You? It's okay, but it's a bit hateful. Last time, he secretly stole the resources we were interested in. Ji Yunshuang looked like he was gnashing his teeth. Although the fact that the spy of the original Shajia had changed her view of Lin You a lot, she still hated Lin Yu's robbing of their resources, which made her more and more angry. Then he reacted and wondered, Dad, why did you ask me this suddenly? It's nothing, just ask casually. Jixing smiled and turned off the interface in front of him. But since that kid has won the glory for our great wild country, as the king, I still have to send someone to congratulate me, so as not to have people gossip when I can. Before he knew it, his name for Lin You also changed to that boy. It's just that Ji Yunshuang didn't live there, so he continued to ask, who are you going to send over? Well, how about leaving it to you? After all, you are a princess, and you can show our sincerity. Ah? Want me to go? What, can't you? It's not impossible, it's just that guy. Since there's no problem, that's the decision. I'll send someone over with you. Jixing had directly interrupted Ji Yunshuang's words and did not give her a chance to continue. There was no other way. Ji Yunshuang had to agree reluctantly, and started to go outside with Jixing to prepare. Lin You didn't know that he was already being missed by someone at this time. Originally, I was checking the properties of the newly advanced plants in the territory. As a result, a huge beam of light suddenly fell from outside the Yellow Sand City, and it crashed to the ground from the sky. Immediately after, a group of people gradually appeared outside Huangsha City, causing the surrounding residents to be on guard. Not long after, there was an anxious shouting from outside the territory. Lord! It's not good. Father-in-law. Princess, come to our Huangsha City. The news of the arrival of the great wild country princess was like a hurricane, instantly sweeping the entire Huangsha City inside and outside. Even the merchants and cultivators who had just arrived left behind what they were doing and ran outside the city to watch. I saw it outside the east gate of Huangsha City. Ji Yunshuang, wearing a red cloak, walked slowly towards the city gate, accompanied by an old man and a guard of honor. Shuichang Gue and Wei Gang, who had already received the news and were waiting there, saw this and hurried up to meet them. His Royal Highness, the princess, is here, and if you miss it, I hope you will forgive me. While speaking, he saluted, and at the same time, he secretly looked at the old man beside Ji Yunchuang, and there was a trace of sweat on his forehead. But before Lin You arrived, they didn't dare to let the other party enter the city easily, they just blocked there and waited anxiously. Is this Lin Yu's territory? Ji Yunchuang was not annoyed by their actions, but looked around curiously. Before coming here, she thought that a lord as powerful as Lin You would have a very prosperous territory, but I didn't expect that it would be in such a remote and barren place, and even the city wall was just built, so it was inevitable that I would be surprised. On the contrary, if the old man beside her felt something, he looked in the direction of the city center. It's such a strong breath of life, the sacred objects in this territory are probably not simple. Yes? Ji Yunchuang heard the words and also looked towards the center of the city. But what she valued more was the shining crown floating above the yellow sand city. There was a tinge of brilliance in his eyes. That is the honor that represents the sixth-order peak of the kingdom. Even if she is the daughter of the king, she can't imagine that she can get such an honor, but Lin You did it easily. Looking far away, it is a tree of life full of vitality, just standing outside Huangsha City, as if it is a world of its own. Vaguely, a black dot appeared on the tree of life and approached them rapidly. Seeing the black spot, Shuechanggue, who was waiting outside the city, was shocked. The Lord is here. As expected, Lin You appeared on the Demon King Dragon in no time, and landed in front of the entire team with a howling wind. Why did you come to me? Lin You rolled over and jumped off the back of the Demon King Dragon, looking at Ji Yunchuang and the old man beside her in surprise. Although the old man did not show his aura, Lin You could vaguely feel that the other party was unusual, at least they were all lords above the 8th rank. What? I'm not welcome? Ji Yunchuang didn't give Lin You much chance to observe, and said directly. Lin You immediately retracted his gaze and smiled slightly. Of course you are welcome, as long as you don't come to me for resources, I welcome you. You. It's okay that Lin You didn't say anything, but when he said it, Ji Yunchuang suddenly remembered bad things. But she didn't forget the purpose of this trip, and didn't bother with Lin You. Forget it, I'm too lazy to bother with you. I'm here this time mainly on my father's order to congratulate you on topping the list. So that's what it is. Lin You suddenly realized, since the king sent you here, let's go to the city first. The place is a little small, don't mind. With that said, Lin You motioned to Shuechanggue and the others to make way, and then walked into the city first. That rude look immediately made Shuechanggue and the others widen their eyes. When did their lord become so familiar with Her Royal Highness the Princess? Unfortunately, before they could think about it, Ji Yunchuang said to the team behind him. Come on, let's go in too. The voice fell, and he walked in. That's all. Under the leadership of Lin You, the entire team swaggered through the city and entered the city, attracting countless people on the roadside to watch. Wei Gang, who was at the back of the team, saw that no one noticed him, and immediately stabbed Shuechanggue next to him with his elbow, looking like a thief. Old Shui, do you think this princess has taken a fancy to our lord? They seem to be very familiar. Don't talk nonsense, if the lord hears you, be careful he hits you. Shuechanggue gave him a fierce look. But immediately, he secretly looked at the two people walking together in front of the team, and then his face sank. It does seem to know each other. Is it really like what you told you? Right? I think there's something tricky in this, otherwise, how could a noble princess come all the way to a rural place like ours? You said that in the future, if the lord really becomes a concubine, then we will be in Huangsha City. Isn't it just developed? Go and go, you will be the concubine before the 8 characters are written. Don't talk about this kind of thing, it will save you any trouble. In the low-pitched chat between the two, the team quickly came to the city, just in front of the crowded blacksmith shop. Boom. 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 A heavy and powerful beating sound came from the stove outside the blacksmith shop, which immediately attracted the eyes of Ji Yunshuang and the old man beside him. When they saw the short figure swinging the sledgehammer in the crowd, they were all stunned. That's a dwarf. This time, even the old man beside Ji Yunshuang was startled, and looked at the dwarf craftsman who was forging something with great surprise. In the human city, there will be a family of dwarves, and they will also be the craftsmen of the blacksmith shop. This is something he did not expect at all. What made him even more unexpected was that at this time, two dwarves came out of the blacksmith shop one after another, and placed the newly built weapons on the counter for sale. In an instant, those cultivators rushed into the shop frantically, rushing to buy those weapons, and the whole blacksmith shop was noisy. There are even dwarves, your territory is really strange. Ji Yunshuang couldn't help but exclaimed. Even though this territory is not big, it surprised her not much less than those large territories, or even a few points better. And she noticed too. All the way, the eyes of the residents looking at Lin You were full of respect, and even the children who were playing on the road would come over to greet Lin You obediently. It was a kind of respect from the heart. Unlike them, they are only regarded by the people as an unattainable ruler. Maybe this is the reason why Lin You is different from other lords. Although Ji Yunshuang didn't want to admit it, Lin You was indeed much stronger than her in this regard. Could it be that this was her father's intention to call her here? Just thinking about it, a little girl suddenly ran over timidly and asked in a low voice, "Big sister, are you the Lord's bride?" Ji Yunshuang. Lin You. Everyone. Arya, come back soon. That's Her Royal Highness, how can be the Lord's bride? The first person to react was Arya's mother. Seeing that her daughter asked such a question, she rushed out of the crowd in a panic, and hugged Arya while apologizing. But I heard from Daddy that the Lord's bride will be the most beautiful person in the world. I think my sister is very beautiful, why not the Lord's bride? Arya said with a look of grievance. Tong Yen Wuji probably said something like her, but it shocked everyone around her. However, what everyone did not expect was that Ji Yunshuang, instead of showing any signs of anger, came to Arya with a soft gaze and squatted down, reaching out to touch her head. Sister is not the bride of your lord, but thank you for complimenting you on her beauty. Have to say. When Ji Yunshuang softened, it was like a different person, so Lin You couldn't imagine that this was the princess of the great wilderness country he knew. You like children? He couldn't help asking. Yeah. Ji Yunshuang didn't look back, because the child's mind is very simple, and he won't be like us, thinking about how to calculate others all day. Really? Lin You responded silently, and his expression became complicated. Comparing with each other is probably the norm in this world. Without thinking much, let the mother lead with her daughter, and then continue to lead the team into the city, all the way to the reception hall to rest. The reception hall at this time is not like it used to be, it has long been overturned and rebuilt into a magnificent building. As soon as the few people sat down, Ji Yunshuang continued his business affairs, started talking about congratulations, and asked people to move in a lot of things. Lin You took a look and found that almost all the resources that were lacking in remote places like Huangsha City, as well as the basic materials for food, clothing, and housing for the residents, were all available in huge quantities. It just solves the problem that the population of Huangsha City is increasing. It seems that Ji Xing has specially considered his territory before choosing what to send. The king has a heart. Lin You couldn't help but be grateful. Then he looked at Ji Yunshuang, who was sitting across from him. I think you guys were teleported with a teleportation array. It should cost a lot of money, right? Of course, like this long-distance positioning teleportation array, each teleportation consumes a lot of magic energy, and it is rarely used. Ji Yunshuang said with a light sip of tea. After coming here all the way, she gradually returned to her former calmness. Lin You didn't care, but asked in surprise, could the royal family also lack magical energy? When he thought about it, since the king was in charge of such a big country, he should have no shortage of magical abilities. It doesn't seem to be the case now? Why can't the royal family lack magical energy? Ji Yunshuang glanced at Lin You and slowly put down the teacup. The city has the city's expenditure, the principality also has the principality's expenditure, and also rewarding the subordinates and maintaining the various places is a huge expense. That's true. Lin Yu nodded silently. And you should also know that my father returned from a serious injury in the Battle of 10,000 Realms last time, and the troops suffered heavy losses. It must take a lot of resources to recruit again. 10th tier arms? Lin Yu's eyes moved slightly. Yes. Ji Yunshuang's expression gradually became more serious. The recruitment of 10th tier troops is not as simple as you think. Just recruiting one will cost millions of mana, 10 is tens of millions. That's not counting other resources. So much. Lin Yu was shocked. Although he guessed that it would take a lot of mana to recruit high-level troops, he did not expect it to reach such a terrifying level. Just one requires millions of mana, which is really terrifying. Just thinking about it, I heard Yunshuang continue to say, what? Don't you know? After crossing the watershed of Tier 6, the resources needed to recruit troops for each level up will increase tenfold, including the territorial upgrade, which is why many of us choose to stay at Tier 6 for the time being. This time, Lin Yu really couldn't hold back. Every time you level up, does it directly double tenfold? Doesn't that mean that recruiting Tier 7 troops requires 2,500 mana? Including the mutation, he would need to spend 5,000 mana to recruit a unit. This is still a case of successful mutation. In case of sudden changes in the units that you do not want, or if you do not inherit the skills you want, this number will be even more. And it's not just more recruiting resources, but other resources will also increase. In other words, the essence of the territory will also. It seems that you really haven't heard of this. Seeing Lin Yu's reaction, Ji Yunshuang finally confirmed his guess. But also, before the 6th order, it was basically just starting, and the resources needed were indeed not many. But after the 7th rank, it will be different. The upgrade of arms will consume more and more territorial essence, so the more advanced the person is, the less likely it is that arms with a higher rank than himself will appear around him. This is also the main reason why you see that the 8th tier lords only have 1 or 2 9th tier troops. In a sense, this is actually forcing our lords to kill each other and collect more territorial essence. So that's the case. Lin Yu suddenly realized after hearing this. No wonder he had seen high-ranking lords in the main city before, and there were not many troops of higher rank around him. It turned out to be the case. If so, the territorial essence needed to upgrade the 7th order arms to the 8th order is not a simple one, but a full 10. That is to kill 10 7th order lords. In an instant, he suddenly felt the deep malice from this world, as if there were really big hands, forcing them to kill each other and forcing them to fight each other. But that's fine too. Knowing this news in advance is better than smearing it, so he can prepare for the next plan. Lin, you didn't expect it. After some conversation, I will gain so much important information. I really deserve to be the princess of the great wilderness country, and I have much more knowledge than the grassroots lords like them. So he didn't rush to deal with other things, but stayed in the hall and continued chatting with Ji Yunshuang. Until nearly noon. After completing the task, Ji Yunshuang took her honor guard to leave, and disappeared into Lin Yu's territory in a sky of teleportation light. It's also time to go shopping in the main city. Seeing the teleportation light gradually dissipating in front of him, Lin Yu murmured softly. He only has 2 Tier 7 territorial essences now, and if he wants to upgrade his arms to Tier 8, he has to get 8 more. This is indeed extremely difficult for a 6th order lord. But for the next 10,000 realms battlefield, you still have to try it out. Make up one's mind. He left the inner city and found Shuechanggue. After explaining something to Shuechanggue, he hurried back to the territory. Before entering the teleportation array, he also took out a dark golden soft armor exuding dim light from his personal space. This is the 8th order equipment that McGun used gold silk for him a few days ago. Adhering to the exquisite skills of dwarf craftsmen, the defense is extremely good, and it can even withstand a blow from Lingxi without being damaged at all. Moreover, McGuinn also promised him that www.mtnovel.com can block at least 2 attacks of the 8th Order. It is much better than expected, and it is suitable to save lives, especially in the crisis-ridden frontier battlefield. Without hesitation, he quickly put on the mail and stepped into the teleportation array. Swish! As soon as his eyes turned, he reappeared on the teleportation plaza in the main city of Angel Wings, and the familiar surroundings came into view. Hurry up, I heard that there is already a fight in the neutral zone, so let's hurry over there. What? It's a fight? Is it with the Yuansha realm? Yes, isn't there a constant battle for territory over there, and a lot of lords gathered? I don't know what happened today, and suddenly there was a fight. It is said that the prince of the Tsangyu Empire was sneak attacked by the people from the Yuansha realm and brought people to take revenge. As a result, more and more lords appeared, and it was about to become a war. Fuck. So exciting? Then let's hurry up and see if we can get a bargain. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. The hurried voices of discussion continued to ring on the edge of the teleportation square. Lin You looked around, almost all of them were lords rushing out of the city. It actually started fighting? He was amazed. Before the war between the 2 worlds began, the contradiction between the lords had already begun to intensify. If he remembered correctly, where the 2 worlds meet, the space should be extremely unstable, right? That is to say, the more senior the lord, the less likely he is to take action there. Generally, only the 6th or 7th rank lord dares to fight there. Isn't this exactly what he wants? After pondering for a while, he immediately changed his direction, followed in the footsteps of those lords, and hurried out of the main city. Then he saw a very spectacular picture. I saw that after the lords came out of the city, they summoned their respective mounts, and in a large roar, they flew into the sky or ran away, forming an extremely large team on the plain outside the city. It seems that they all want to go there to get a bargain, or to support their own lords. Seeing this, Lin You didn't waste any time. He directly summoned Lingxi and the Demon King Dragon, flew high into the sky, and rushed to the Yuansha realm with those lords. So all the way across the plain, across the checkpoint. It took nearly 2 hours to finally come to a cloud-covered world. This is where the original continent and the original evil continent meet. I saw that where the 2 worlds collided, there was lightning and thunder, and the wind was blowing, and there was a strong chaotic atmosphere in the sky. A huge crack like a vast galaxy connects the 2 ends of the sky and the earth, completely separating the 2 worlds. Below, there is an endless neutral zone dyed red. It is also the place where the battle between the 2 worlds is the most intense. As soon as Lin You arrived nearby, he heard a large number of hoarse screams of killing. The 2 huge teams collided fiercely like a tide, and they were madly killing each other at the junction. There are constantly lords coming from all directions, bringing their respective arms to join the battle, making the whole air tremble. Such a huge scene immediately shocked Lin You and was amazed. Unexpectedly, there are so many lords gathered here. Seeing that small cracks began to appear in the air, he immediately let the Demon King Dragon follow the other lords who had just arrived and flew to the ground. Wherever the eyes go, almost all figures are hurrying to and fro, and the arms around him are also varied. Hurry up! Hurry up! Another group of cubs from the Yuansha realm rushed over. Let's go over to help. At this time, the anxious shouts of other lords suddenly came from the side, attracting Lin Yu's eyes. I saw that at the place where the 2 armies collided, a large number of 6th and 7th order lords and a large number of arms suddenly appeared on the original Shajia side, and the lords on their side were pressed back. Let's go, let's have a look. Lin Yu made a decisive decision, and immediately followed in the footsteps of those lords with Lingxi and other plants, and hurried to the chaotic front. Immediately, a pungent smell rushed to his face. The screams of the lords kept echoing in his ears. Kill! Kill all in the original Shajia. Rush me! What? This is the first time for Lin You to come to such a fierce battlefield, and he will be shocked by the scene in front of him. But immediately, He saw a handsome young man riding a behemoth beast at the forefront of the battle suddenly raised the big sword in his hand and let out a loud shout. "Brothers! The state is in full swing. Push them back to me. Kill." In an instant, the lords of the primordial realm began to drink loudly, and the halos opened one by one, and they were in a state of madness. That young man should be the prince of the Lin You empire, that the lords said. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be a seventh-order lord, and the several behemoth beasts around him were extraordinary, obviously reaching the eighth-order level. On the other hand, the leader of the Yuansha realm was also a seventh-order lord. He led a few of his own eighth-order war bears and collided fiercely with Prince Lin Yu's behemoth. Very good. There are not many tier 8 arms. Lin Yu's eyes lit up, and he immediately came to the edge of the battle line, summoning all the more than 200 or 300 proliferating troops except the main body. All of a sudden, a large number of plants suddenly appeared on the battlefield, which immediately attracted the eyes of the surrounding lords, casting surprised glances. Okay? Prince Lin You, who was commanding the Battle of the Arms, also looked in the direction of Lin You, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. On this battlefield, how could such plant troops suddenly appear, and the number is even more than that of a seventh-order lord? However, he didn't wait for him to see more. The war bear troop in front of him let out a roar, and a red light suddenly appeared on his body, pressing them back again. In a twinkling of an eye, the troops on the side of the original evil world died, and the serious injuries were actually faint signs of defeat. Ha ha ha, the waste of the primitive world. You can't win us. The leading war bear lord laughed arrogantly. This battle happened suddenly, and it was obvious that the number of lords in the Yuansha realm was more dominant. Although Prince Lin You was unwilling, he could only clench his fists and gradually retreated, preparing to find another opportunity to counterattack. But at this moment, there was a sudden commotion in the crowd of Yuanshaji. What's going on? How come there are so many dandelions here? I have it too, as if it was blown by the wind. Be careful. These dandelions' blood. The Lord of Yuansha realm exclaimed again and again, and finally found that something was wrong with these dandelions. All of them were sucking the blood of them and their troops. What's more terrible is that the dandelion seeds after sucking blood grow rapidly and become brand new dandelions, which continue to spread around, causing a lot of riots in the entire primordial demon realm team. Although there is no way to be fatal in a short time, it gives the primitive world a chance to breathe. Prince Lin You was shocked, and immediately raised the great sword in his hand. Everyone obeys. Strike with all your strength. Kill. In an instant, the shouting and killing sounded together, and the situation was brought back again. And Lin You, who was hiding in the crowd, also took advantage of the chaos to let the plants carry out sneak attacks to get rid of the troops standing in front of him. After seeing the gap in the original Shajia team, he immediately signaled to the Demon King Dragon, who was waiting for an opportunity in the sky. After receiving the order, the Demon King Dragon immediately used its tyrannical power to shake the flying troops around, and took several plague poisonous mushrooms on its back into the sky. After a while, mushrooms containing the smell of plague fell from the sky, and the location happened to be the densest place in the original Shajia. Watch out for those mushrooms. It's poisonous. Hurry up. Hurry up and block it, you mustn't let those mushrooms fall. In the team of Yuansha realm, there were many plant lords who recognized the plague poisonous mushroom, and they all screamed. Unexpectedly, there are troops that can break through the defense line of their flying troops and come to their heads. Bang bang bang. Just listening to a series of explosions, all the plague mushrooms were blocked in the air and exploded one after another. However, the aura of plague spread from the explosion gradually descended, and in a blink of an eye, it enveloped most of the team in the Yuansha realm. The plague of the plague mushroom finally became the straw that broke the camel's back, causing the troops in the entire primordial demon realm team to become sluggish and gradually devoured by the toxins in the plague. And it spreads out in all directions. The original shaman world lord, who was still arrogant, immediately covered his mouth and nose, his face full of shock. Quick! The angels are quick to use purification. purify these poisonous mists. The leading war bear lord shouted anxiously. The angelic lords at the rear also reacted quickly, and immediately gave orders to the angelic priests beside him. In an instant, the holy light shone, purifying all the scattered plague poisonous mist, and healing their injuries by the way. However, where would the primitive realm give them a chance to breathe? While they were in a hurry, they launched a full-scale counterattack, frantically attacking the troops in front of them. And Lin Yu's layout has finally been basically completed here. Pieces of troops fell down and turned into corpses. Then those corpses were immediately wrapped in a breath of death, and they shrank quickly, as if they had been drained of their flesh. In the next second, one after another, the flower of death full of fangs grew from the ground. With the continuous fall of the troops, the number of death flowers is also increasing, and in a blink of an eye, it is spread to every corner of the entire battle position. When they came back to their senses, a terrifying sea of dead flowers had already formed. This is not to mention the lords of the primordial realm. Even the lords of the primordial realm were shocked, looking at the terrifying piranha that kept growing. And some of them looked at the only standing figure in the sea of flowers with horrified eyes. Go, it's time for you to perform. Lin You, in the sea of flowers, raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Immediately afterwards, the flower of death around him turned into a blood-colored torrent, rushing towards the team of Yuansha realm, causing their faces to change wildly in an instant. Quick! Rewind. The number of death flowers is too terrifying, and almost all of them are 7th order. Unexpectedly, in such a short period of time, someone could create such a terrifying team, which made them feel terrified. The primitive world lords who reacted were also very excited, and they all roared and attacked them again. In the blink of an eye, a large number of death flowers were mixed with the arms, and a shocking melee was launched on the entire battlefield. Seeing that the situation was not good, the war bear lord immediately ordered the 8th order war bear beside him to rush to Lin You, trying to get rid of him, but was stopped by Prince Song Yu's behemoth. Even the sneak attacks of other lords ended in failure. Because by Lin Yu's side there is not only the flower of death, but also a variety of powerful plant troops, and they don't give them a chance to get close at all. When did such a powerful lord appear in the primitive world? This question popped up in the minds of all the lords of the original Sha world, and they were terrified to the extreme. And under the pressure of the army, they finally began to quickly rout. More and more troops fell and were transformed into flowers of death. The strength gap between the two teams is also growing. It made the lords of the primitive world scream with joy. At the same time, several reminders sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Kill the 6th order lord of the alien plane, get 170,000 mana, 10 honor points, and the 6th order territory essence x1. Kill the 6th order lord of the alien plane, get 50,000 mana, 10 honor points, and the 6th order territory essence x1. Kill the 7th order lord of the alien plane, get 340,000 mana, 100 honor points, and the 7th order territory essence x1. He even successfully killed a 7th order lord. Lin Yu was pleasantly surprised. Unexpectedly, under the chaos, his death flower seat actually grabbed the head of a 7th order lord. It is estimated that the lord is also unlucky. He actually lost the protection of the troops in the chaos, and he took advantage of it. And just as the two sides were fighting frantically and the battle situation intensified, the space where they were fighting suddenly clicked and cracks appeared. The faces of the people who were still roaring loudly suddenly changed. Not good. The space is starting to collapse, hurry up. Obviously, because the battle situation was too intense, the surrounding space could no longer withstand such a violent impact, and instability began to appear. I saw that where the space was shattered, void black holes suddenly appeared one by one, sucking and pulling all the surrounding arms in, and instantly smashed into pieces. Even some of the lords who were relatively close were swallowed up by the black hole and exploded into a cloud of blood, which shocked everyone to retreat. How could they dare to fight in the slightest? Fortunately, Lin Yu has always been at the back of the crowd, basically just let Deathflower participate in the battle, and was not involved in it. Seeing that the black hole in the void is getting bigger and bigger, and the suction force is getting stronger and stronger. He immediately recalled all the plants to the territory, while he rode the demon king dragon and flew away from here, fleeing to the outside of the neutral zone. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire neutral zone finally collapsed completely, turning into a terrifying void that devoured all the lords and the flowers of death that had not had time to escape. And the battle between the two worlds also came to an abrupt end here and was forced to be interrupted. It looks like it will take a while to recover. Taking advantage of this gap, Lin You took a look at his magic energy, and it rose to an exaggerated level of 1.2 million. I am afraid that the average 7th Order Lord does not have so much magic power. Come on, let's go back. Glancing around, Lin You didn't linger any longer, and turned and left with the plants. The other lords who had recovered from the panic also turned their heads one after another, looking at the back of his leaving, their eyes full of fear. With his own strength, he can turn the tide, change the whole battle situation, and even make the entire Yuansha world collapse. This strength, even though 7th Order lords can't do it. There is such a powerful plant lord in the main city? Do you know who that person was just now? Prince Lin You called a subordinate beside him and asked in a low voice. And his eyes were fixed on the direction where Lin You disappeared, looking very dignified. Go back to His Royal Highness. If your subordinate guesses correctly, he should be the Lin You who was recently recruited by the 3rd Prince of the Vault of Heaven Empire. It's him? Prince Lin You raised his brows and looked again in the direction where Lin You disappeared. As the Prince of the Empire, he is naturally much better informed than ordinary lords. It was no secret to him that Qin Li recruited Lin You. He originally thought that Qin Li valued Lin Yu's talent and wanted to recruit him under his command for training. It turned out that he was wrong, and very wrong. This Lin You is not only extremely talented, but even his own strength is extremely tyrannical. Even the most peak 6th Order ranks in the Yu Empire are nothing more than this, and even inferior. Not to mention Qin Li, even if he was very moved, he wanted to recruit Lin You. So after thinking for a while, he said to his subordinates, go check his history, remember not to let him find out, and don't make him unhappy. I have a hunch that he will definitely grow to a very terrifying level in the future. Okay, I'll do it right now. The man responded and left in a hurry, also rushing back in the direction of the main city. The news of the defeat of the Yuansha realm in the first battle in the neutral zone was quickly transmitted back to the main city, causing a sensation among the low-level lords. Walking on the street, I could even hear many people talking about this matter, all of them in high spirits. After all, it has always been. The confrontation between the primitive world and the original evil world is basically winning less and losing more, or both sides are not flattering. It is rare for this kind of situation to collapse the entire line of Yuansha realm. Although it was just a small fight between the lords of the 6th and 7th ranks, it was very exciting and made them experience the joy of victory. And the name of Lin You, with their help, gradually spread in the city, and even the 3rd Prince Qin Li, who was dealing with affairs in the palace, was disturbed. You mean, he reversed the whole battle situation by himself? Is this news accurate? Qin Li looked at his men who came to report and asked in surprise. It is absolutely true, the subordinates have been confirmed in many ways, and I have inquired from the lords who have just returned. Basically, it is almost the same as what the rumors said. Okay, you can go outside and have a look. When there is any other news, Ma Shan will come back and report to me. Yes. In response, the subordinate hurriedly backed away. Qin Li looked solemn and put down the letter in his hand. After this battle, Lin Yu's status in his heart has been raised a lot, even higher than those 7th Order lords, and at the same time, he has also strengthened his idea of winning Lin You. Even if he can't win over, at least he can't let Lin You stand on the opposite side of himself and let his brother and sister take advantage. Thinking of this, he raised his head and looked outside. Commander Zhou, come in. The other side. Above the main street leading to the mission hall. Lin You wandered around and listened to the surrounding discussions about the battle, but he didn't expect the news to spread so quickly. but he didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, the scene was so chaotic at the time that few people could see his face clearly, let alone worry about being recognized. After strolling around the street and not finding any good treasures, Lin You followed the crowd and walked into the nearby exchange. The exchanges in the main city are basically the same as those in his territory, but the scale is different and the handling fee is different. So soon, he got started and clicked on the item interface to check it out. Immediately after that, a list popped up, listing all kinds of things that were on sale, from the lowest level first order items to the 8th-9th order items that Lin You had never seen before. But like this popular trading platform, most of the things sold are basic items. Even if you occasionally encounter some scarce materials, the price is ridiculously expensive, and it is used to fish for kaizi. Lin You was bored, and kept flipping through the interface, watching each and everything pass in front of his eyes. Okay? Suddenly, he let out a light whimper, and his eyes were drawn to an item that had just been refreshed. Items for sale, essence of Tier 7 territory. Auction price, 100,000 magic energy. One-off price, 2 million magic energy. Duration, 1 hour 58 minutes. Seller, anonymous. In the exchange, someone actually took out the essence of the 7th order territory and sold it. Lin You was stunned for a moment. You must know that the essence of the territory is definitely one of the most precious resources for all lords, and the more advanced it is, the more rare it is. Few people are willing to sell it. Even if you really want to sell, you will replace it with something of the same value, instead of throwing it directly into the exchange as it is now. It seems that this lord should be very lack of mana now, and even the auction time is only set for 2 hours. How could Lin You miss such a great opportunity? Quickly jog your finger and directly enter the auction price of 150,000. All of a sudden, his price replaced the bidding price of others just now. Go. Which animal raised the price to 150,000 at once? At this time, a 6th order lord not far away suddenly let out a foul language, staring at the returned bid amount on the interface. There was even a commotion from several lords in other nearby locations. It seems that he is not the only one who sees the essence of this territory. Lin Yu's face was awe-inspiring. Dear Lord, the Tier 7 territory essence you bid for has already been bid higher, and the bid amount will be returned. Really? Before half a minute, someone continued to increase the price, suppressing his bid. Lin You looked at the 7th order territorial essence again, and found that the auction price above was constantly changing. From the original 150,000, it soared all the way to more than 300,000, and it finally stopped slowly when it was nearly 400,000. It seems that with this magic energy alone, it is very possible to win the essence of the 7th order territory. But the price of 2 million is too expensive, only a fool would spend so much money to buy it. Anyway, there was nothing else to do for the time being, so Lin You simply stayed in the exchange, checked the auction trends while shopping for goods, and did not continue to bid. The other lords seemed to have the same idea as him, and they did not increase the price, but chose to wait and see. In this way, in the long wait, the auction price is slowly rising as time passes by. It was only when there were only 5 minutes left that the lords began to exert their strength, and thousands of tens of thousands of mana were bidding upwards. Lin You, who had been staring at the trading interface, also held his breath and watched the price changes above. In the blink of an eye, the prices are constantly changing and skyrocketing, with new prices appearing with each refresh. 4 minutes, 500,000. 3 minutes, 580,000. 2 minutes. 650,000, 1 minute. 690,000, finally, in the last half minute, the price stopped above 720,000. It seems that this should be the limit price for those 6th or 7th order lords. Including Lin You, almost all the lords who are bidding are staring at the interface, not daring to relax. And so on until the last 2 seconds of the countdown. Lin You finally dropped his finger and directly selected the price that had been set already. Ding. A crisp beep sounded. Congratulations, the auction was successful, and the essence of the 7th Order territory was obtained. It worked. Lin You was ecstatic. Looking into his personal space, there was an extra 7th Order territorial essence. Including the 3 I got before, there are 4 in total. Damn it. The auction of 750,000 failed. Who bought the 7th Order territorial essence just now? Suddenly, there was an angry curse from the other lords. 750,000? I failed the auction for 800,000. Fuck. 800,000 failed? What was the final transaction price? So many people are rushing to shoot, at least 850,000, right? It's sour, everyone is rich, I can't even get 80,000 mana. The lords who failed in the auction were talking a lot, all guessing who grabbed the essence of this territory, and the final transaction price. Only Lin You secretly rejoiced in his heart. I didn't expect that someone would actually bid more than 800,000 yuan. Fortunately, he was ruthless and entered 860,000 yuan, which was just 10,000 more than the lords guessed. It is estimated that it is the 10,000 yuan that finally made him win and get the ownership of the auction items. Looking at his magic energy, there are only more than 300,000 left. But it's totally worth it. As long as he has enough materials to upgrade the 8th Order arms, when the battlefield of the world opens, won't it be easy to earn it back? What's more, the contradiction between Primordial Realm and Primordial Sha Realm has been completely intensified, and it is estimated that there will be no peace in the neutral area. At that time, he will go over and pick up the leaks. Thinking of this, Lin You closed the interface, turned and left the exchange. The next few days, Lin You spent between the main city and the territory. Or go outside to hunt monsters and hunt the lords of the original Sha world. Either stay in the exchange and keep an eye on it to see if anyone continues to sell the essence of the territory. Unfortunately, however, 5 full days passed, and there was no second territorial essence in the exchange. It seems that it is impossible to collect enough materials to upgrade the troops through this method. No way, he can only go to the street to see if there are other ways. Quick, the neutral area is fighting again. I heard that there are a lot of lords coming from Yuansha realm this time, and they also threaten to kill us. Kill us? This is too arrogant. Who gave them face? Anyway, let's go to the reinforcements first. Suddenly, the anxious voices of several lords came from the side, which immediately attracted Lin Yu's eyes with a look of surprise. The neutral zone is fighting again so quickly? If he remembered correctly, this should be the 3rd time in the past few days, but he didn't expect it to still exist. It seems that the contradiction between the two worlds is not generally fierce. But it just happened, he was worried that he had nowhere to get the essence of the territory, and the other party came to the door. How could he miss it so easily? Without hesitation, he directly followed the lords who were in a hurry and rushed out of the city together. When he spent more than an hour, he came to the neutral area. Sure enough, I saw that the two teams were facing each other across the place where the two worlds blended, and the number was several times more than the previous two. Looking around, there are all black lords in arms, and there are even many 7th Order lords mixed in the crowd. However, they were not in a hurry, but kept gathering teams and waiting for the best time. Lin You followed the other lords to the back of the crowd and looked around curiously. Look. It seems to be the 6th rank first person of the Dragon Empire, Xiao Chong. I didn't expect him to come. There is also young Wanqing from the Snow Wind Empire. It is said that she has already reached the level of upgrading to the 7th rank, but she has remained at the 6th rank. That one over there, isn't that Ying Huan from the Xiaoshang Kingdom? Exclamations rang out in the crowd, one after another. Lin You stood in the corner, listening to their discussion, slightly surprised. There are so many talented people in the Lord this time. It seems that the contradiction between the two worlds is more exaggerated than he imagined. But that's fine, the more intense they fight, the easier it is for him to reap the benefits, and it's not impossible to sneak a sneak attack on the 7th Order Lord in the melee. Lin You? Why are you here too? Suddenly, a shout came from the side. In the crowd, Ji Yunshuang, who was wearing a red robe, appeared with a few of her teammates, and walked towards Lin You with an unexpected face, and her cry attracted the eyes of other lords around, and they all looked at Lin You. Did you hear it just now? He seems to be called Lin You? Lin You? Could it be the plant lord who deflated Yuansha realm before? It seems to be true. Look at the troops around him, aren't they plant-based? Damn it. I didn't expect him to come. The lords talked in a low voice, each with a startled look on their faces. Lin You was also very surprised when he looked at Ji Yunshuang and the others walking towards him. Why are you here? Your father agreed to let you come in such a dangerous place? Why can't you come and I can't? Ji Yunshuang rolled his eyes at him. Although after these days of contact, she and Lin You are already familiar with each other, but every time Lin You speaks, she can be half dead with anger. What is a dangerous place where she can't come? Can you come and can't I come? Ji Yunshuang felt that she was being despised, and she became even more upset when she saw Lin You. That look of anger suddenly caused a few teammates around her to look astonished, because it was the first time for them to see Ji Yunshuang showing such an expression. But immediately, Lin You interrupted them. I didn't say you couldn't come, but it's dangerous to wait here, you have to be careful. For Ji Yunshuang, Lin You can't say that he has any special feelings. At most, she just felt that she belonged to the same principality as herself and had helped her, so she couldn't help reminding her. Don't worry, my father gave me a lot of things to save my life, it won't be so easy to die, but do you want to join us later? Ji Yunshuang directly invited Lin You. Lin You pondered for a while, then glanced at Ji Yunshuang's angel unit again, and nodded, it's okay, you can also help when you cooperate with me in a melee. In fact, he took a fancy to the gain and purification of the angel arms. Of course, he would never say this, but continued, I'm here this time to find an opportunity to sneak attack on those seventh orders, and collect the essence of the territory, so it may be a little risky. You are also eyeing those seventh orders? Ji Yunshuang asked in surprise. What? You too? Lin You retracted his gaze. Of course, who would think too much of the essence of the territory? And killing the seventh order can also add experience to the troops, don't do it for nothing. Oh. Lin Yu's expression suddenly changed. He had forgotten that if other lords wanted to upgrade their arms, they had to kill monsters or lords of the same level. 2005 experience points are not a small number. He also used the last beast tide to increase Qingting's experience to just over 1,000 points. It is not easy to encounter so many seventh orders. Okay, let's discuss the tactics first, so we don't have to wait a while. In this way, Lin You, Ji Yunshuang and her teammates got together and began to discuss the next coping strategy. Until near noon, when the two suns are about to meet. All the lords suddenly looked tense. It's coming, noon is the most stable time for space. Ji Yunshuang reminded him, and immediately summoned his angel armies. His expression became fiercer than ever before. As predicted. As soon as her voice fell, she heard a loud shout from the seventh order leaders from both sides. Rush, kill me. Kill. In an instant, the teams on both sides turned into a torrent of roars and slammed into each other fiercely. The battle lines that were originally neat and tidy turned into chaos in the blink of an eye, attacking all over the sky, and all the lords in arms were madly fighting each other. Let's go too. With a big wave of Lin Yu's hand, he summoned a large number of plants. The huge number suddenly shocked Ji Yunshuang's teammates, but they also quickly reacted and summoned their respective arms. Wind dance. Only one of the elemental lords let out a low voice. A few peculiar-looking seventh-order wind elements around him blew a breeze, wrapping all the surrounding arms, making their speed suddenly mentioned. At the same time, another lord's rock turtle glowed with a khaki light, covering the surrounding units with a protective halo. In a blink of an eye, the strength of the entire team has risen to a higher level. As expected, they were the teammates that Ji Yunshuang had chosen. None of them were mediocre, and even the vast majority of the arms had reached the 7th rank, and only a few of them had reached the 6th rank. Under the blessing of the two, the troops they summoned also rushed to the front line. The rough-skinned ancient war trees and rock turtles opened the way, directly activated the skills, and slammed into the Yuansha realm team in the distance. Boom! With a loud bang, a large area of the original shaman's arms was knocked apart by the huge body of the ancient war tree, tearing a huge gap on the front. On the side, there are countless vines passing through the gap, constantly attacking. The demon king dragon carried the mushrooms into the sky, and threw the mushrooms at the opposing flying units, causing a series of violent explosions. The fallen corpses around them also began to be gradually corrupted, and flowers of death grew. No. It's the previous plant lord. In the team of Yuansha realm, someone quickly recognized Lin Yu's death flower, and their expressions changed greatly. Quick! Fire troops, burn those flowers, never let them grow. Those lords who have personally experienced the horror of the death flower sea will not give Lin You the opportunity to create a plant army, and immediately call in teams of fire troops to attack Lin Yu's plants crazily. In an instant, the flames soared into the sky, forming a sea of flames where Lin You and the others were, which directly suppressed the growth of the flower of death. Seeing this picture, Lin You couldn't help frowning. But right away, there was a sudden shout from his side. Judgment of the holy light. I saw that the angels around Ji Yunshuang raised the sacred spears in their hands and shot them into the sky. Boom! The golden light exploded, extinguishing all the flames, and even the nearby fire troops were blasted out, instantly dismantling their offensive. The power of a single blow is so terrifying. It really deserves to be one of the most powerful angel-type arms. Relying on the blocking of the holy light, the troops of the other people around them immediately pursued the victory and rolled over to the opposite side. In the distance, there was a booming sound. Those troops under the 7th Order collided wildly, shaking the space for a while, but there was no sign of collapse. Sure enough, as Ji Yunshuang said, the space at noon is much more stable than usual. However, relatively, the number of lords and troops is much more than the last time. As soon as Lin Yu's flower of death grew, it was immediately wiped out by numerous attacks, unable to organize enough scale. Even the demon king dragon demon concubine dragon in the air couldn't break through the opposing line of defense. Using combination skills, they could only rely on the mushrooms on their backs to blow them up one by one. In this way, they fought fiercely for more than 10 minutes without any progress. Instead, the whole scene became more and more chaotic. Does your unit have any buffs that can increase fire resistance? Lin You shouted at Ji Yunshuang next to him. He has now been targeted by the Fire Lord on the opposite side, and he can't do it without special measures. There is one. At this moment, Ji Yunshuang looked at him, but it requires a lot of energy. If it is used up, my troops will have to recover for a while before I can continue to fight. It's okay, let them hide in my plants. It is good. Ji Yunshuang nodded heavily. She seemed to have guessed what Lin You was going to do. As predicted. The next second, the top of their heads suddenly darkened, and a behemoth appeared on the battlefield and landed with a bang. It is the ivy who is already hungry and thirsty. This sudden upheaval suddenly caused the lords on the side to cast their shocked eyes, looking at the huge vines covering hundreds of meters of green vines. The original world is not bad, after all, many people have seen Qingting. But the original evil world is different. It was the first time that many of them had seen such an exaggerated type of troops, and all of them were immediately frightened and their eyes widened, and they stepped back. But right away, they calmed down. Don't be afraid, everyone, plants are afraid of fire, attack with fire. In the blink of an eye, the flames surged violently, turning into a rain of fire that flew into the air and roared towards the ivy. Such a dense attack, no matter how high the ivy attribute is, I am afraid it is difficult to directly resist. Angel prayer. Suddenly, Ji Yunshuang, who was in the vine forest, let out a loud cry. The angels around her flew into the sky in unison, forming a ring around Qingting's body, then clasped her hands together, closed her eyes and prayed. At that moment, as if hymns lingered, the bell rang. Mimi Sanskrit reverberated in everyone's ears, turned into holy marks and spread out, and quickly merged into Qingting's huge body. At the same time, around the entire vine forest, a protective wall of holy light appeared that connected the heaven and the earth, so that all the vines were dyed with a layer of holy light. Such a magnificent scene immediately made all the surrounding lords fall into deep shock. Boom boom boom. A series of violent explosions shook the entire ground violently. Those meteor showers that were approaching were all blocked from the holy light wall, and there was no way to hurt Qingting. And the angels who finished their prayers also wilted one by one, and were well protected by the green vines around the body. How can it be? Where have the people of Yuansha realm ever seen such strange things? Seeing all their attacks being blocked, one by one was horrified. Attack! Keep attacking for me. Never let this monster rush over. Then, another dense flame attack appeared, trying to stop Qingting's footsteps. However, the green vines, blessed by the angels, would not give them a chance to start frantically swinging the vines, pumping out the troops in front of them one by one. Some who didn't have time to retreat were directly penetrated by the vines that rushed out of the ground, and were instantly sucked into mummified corpses. And the attributes of Qingting are also rising rapidly, breaking through the shackles of the Eighth Order in no time. What a perverted soldier! In the vine forest, several of Ji Yunshuang's teammates exclaimed and were extremely excited at the same time. Because under the protection of the vine forest, their troops are like an extra layer of natural protective wall. They follow the green vines to crush them all the way, and they don't have to worry about safety issues at all. From time to time, they can steal the head of the opposite lord. What's even more abnormal is that without the check and balance of the flame attack, the dead corpses also began to regenerate into a flower of death, and the number is increasing, and it continues to spread to the surrounding along with the vine forest. It's like a moving war fortress. The lords of the Yuansha realm did not expect that there would be such a terrifying lord in the primitive realm. If this continues, they may face the crisis of collapse across the board. No, we must stop him. The Seventh Order lords who were in the fierce battle finally felt the threat of Lin You, and they retreated one after another, and attacked Qingting with their Eighth Order troops. Be careful. There are 8th-tier troops coming. Ji Yunshuang reminded in surprise. Although her angel prayer is extremely powerful, it is only in terms of protection and abnormal resistance. It is good to resist 7th Order attacks, but it is a bit difficult for 8th Order attacks. Seeing more and more Tier 8 troops approaching them, my heart suddenly tightened. Unexpectedly. At this time, the corner of Lin Yu's mouth suddenly rose slightly. It's good. I'm still worrying about where to find the 7th Order lords, and they came to the door by themselves. Get ready, you're going to start collecting people, what? Ji Yunshuang and her teammates were all stunned, completely ignorant of what Lin You meant. Immediately afterwards, I heard Qing Gang, who was at the edge of the forest, suddenly raised his head and let out a roar. A burst of red light instantly enveloped the ivy and all the troops in the forest, and even the sea of dead flowers that had been resurrected was blushing all over. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.